To understand the world of the Countess of Pembroke's Arcadia, we have to start with the way the author, Sir Philip Sidney, wanted us to read it. Sidney wasn't just trying to tell a story, he was trying to change how we use our minds when we read. He makes a distinction between poetry that appeals to the imagination and prose that appeals to the understanding. He believed that while poetry is beautiful, prose has a unique ability to engage our reason, helping us actually learn how to live through the lessons of a narrative. It's a sophisticated way to approach a story, and it sets the stage for a work that is famously complex, blending high-stakes political drama with the gentle, often deceptive, simplicity of pastoral life. The story begins in a way that feels almost like a play. We find ourselves in a lush, stylized pastoral setting where the characters aren't just people, but symbols of different ways of living. We meet two shepherds, Corydon and Menalcas, who are engaged in a formal, highly structured debate. They aren't just arguing about a girl, they are arguing about the nature of love and worthiness. Musidorus acts as the judge in this dispute, and he eventually awards the girl to the older Menalcas. His reasoning is that youth is a burden that needs to be managed by the steady hand of experience. It's a light-hearted moment, but it introduces a recurring tension in the book, the conflict between the impulsive energy of youth and the structured, often heavy, requirements of maturity and social order. This lightness is quickly interrupted by a much darker tone. A figure named Agelastus delivers a somber meditation on the nature of power. He speaks about the crushing weight of kingship and the corrupting influence of ambition. He contrasts the heavy, often lonely responsibilities of a ruler with the relative freedom of a shepherd. This isn't just flavor text, it's the heartbeat of the entire book. Sidney is setting up a world where every choice is a tug-of-war between what a person wants to do and what their position in society demands they do. As we move from the pastoral debates into the actual political landscape, the stakes get much higher. We learn about the political instability in Corinth and Mantinea. Tenorus, a former usurper who once tried to take the throne, arrives in disguise. He's looking for a pardon, and the Queen of Corinth shows a remarkable amount of mercy. She pardons him and restores his possessions, though he remains under restraint until she returns to the city. This act of political reconciliation is a crucial moment. It shows that order isn't just maintained through force or punishment, but through grace and the reintegration of former enemies. However, this stability is fragile. A real engine of the plot begins when a group of noble figures, Euarchus, Pyrocles, and Musidorus, decide to leave the structured, predictable world of the court at Mantinea. They say they are traveling toward Arcadia, a place that sounds idyllic and peaceful, but their true motivations are much more complicated. They are driven by intense, private passions and personal desires that threaten to tear apart the very social order they represent. As they move from the court toward the landscape of Arcadia, the tension between their public duties and their private impulses becomes the driving force of the drama. They think they are heading toward freedom, but they are actually walking into a labyrinth of confusion. As they enter Arcadia, the idealized world turns out to be anything but simple. The characters find themselves caught in a web of mistaken identities, secret loves, and social transgressions. The noblemen, who are supposed to be the pillars of their society, find themselves acting on impulses that contradict everything they stand for. This is where the tragicomic nature of the book really takes hold. It's not just a tragedy where everyone dies, and it's not just a comedy where everyone gets married. It's a messy, complicated middle ground where the characters' attempts to follow their hearts lead them into profound moral and social chaos. The plot thickens as the characters' paths cross in ways they never intended. Musidorus, the judge from the opening shepherd's debate, finds himself deeply entangled in the very romantic complications he once helped arbitrate. The distinction between the high world of the nobles and the low world of the shepherds begins to blur. The characters find that they cannot simply shed their identities. A prince cannot truly become a shepherd without losing the very essence of his social self. The pursuit of passion becomes a form of madness that blinds them to the consequences of their actions. The climax of the story is a series of intense, often violent, confrontations. The secrets that the characters have been keeping, the affairs, the hidden identities, the betrayals, all come crashing to the surface. The political order that the Queen of Corinth worked so hard to maintain through mercy is threatened by the personal chaos of these individuals. We see that even the most powerful rulers are subject to the whims of their own emotions. The very things that make them human, their capacity for love and passion, are the same things that make them dangerous to the stability of their kingdoms. By the end of the narrative, the chaos reaches a breaking point. The various threads of the plot, which have been weaving around each other in a complex pattern, finally collide. There is significant loss and significant suffering. The characters are forced to face the reality that their private desires have had public consequences. The ending is not a simple happy one, it is a resolution that comes through a harsh reckoning. The characters are brought to a point where they must reconcile their individual passions with the demands of their social roles. In the final movement of the book, the characters are forced to return to the world of order, but they are changed by what they have experienced. The freedom they sought in Arcadia was not the liberation they imagined, but a chaotic space that stripped them of their illusions. They realized that the heavy burdens of kingship and duty, which Aeglastus spoke of so somberly, are not just weights to be cast off, but the essential structures that prevent human passion from turning into total destruction. When we look back at the whole arc of the story, we can see the central theme clearly, the struggle between passion and reason. Sidney is showing us that while passion is a powerful and natural force, it is also inherently disruptive. When individuals attempt to rule their own emotions with the same absolute authority they use to rule a kingdom, they often end up being ruled by those emotions instead. The characters in Arcadia try to escape the heavy life of the court, but they find that the free life of the shepherd is just as complicated, just as governed by unwritten rules, and just as capable of causing ruin. This brings us to the idea of the burden of honor. For these characters, honor isn't just a personal feeling, it's a social currency. It's the thing that defines their place in the world and dictates how they must act. Much of the drama arises because the characters' private loves and desires are in direct conflict with their sense of honor and their public duties. They find themselves in a position where they cannot be both true to their hearts and true to their social positions. This tension is what makes the book so much more than a simple romance. It's an exploration of the fundamental difficulty of being a person in a structured society. Sidney's work also serves as a bridge between different eras of storytelling. By using prose to engage the understanding, he was trying to move beyond the purely fantastical elements of earlier romances. He wanted to create a story that felt more grounded in the complexities of human psychology and political reality, even if the setting remained highly stylized and symbolic. He was attempting to use fiction as a tool for moral and intellectual development, a way to help his readers navigate the difficult choices of their own lives. Ultimately, the Countess of Pembroke's Arcadia is a study in the limits of human control. We see characters who try to control their destinies, who try to control their lovers, and who try to control their own impulses, only to find that they are caught in a web of their own making. The book suggests that true sovereignty isn't just about ruling a territory or a people, but about the ability to govern one's own passions. The chaos in Arcadia is a mirror for the chaos that exists within every human heart when reason is sidelined by desire. As we finish our journey through this complex landscape, we're left with the image of a world that is constantly trying to balance itself. There is the balance between the king and the subject, between the prince and the shepherd, and between the law and the heart. Sidney doesn't offer easy answers or a simple moral lesson. Instead, he presents a world that is as complicated and contradictory as the people living in it. He leaves us with the realization that the structures we build to keep order, our laws, our social roles, our very identities, are constantly being tested by the unpredictable and often overwhelming power of human passion.